Thank you all for joining us. This film had its American premiere at the Traverse City Film Festival, which was Michael Morse Film Festival. And he is here with us right now to lead the Q&A with the co-director of the film, Shoshlam.
Thank you.
It's a big honor for me that you are here. I'm very happy.
No, thank you. I was honored to show this at my festival, and I've been very impressed with a lot of documentaries that have been coming out of Israel and Palestine in recent years. Incredible, powerful films. Oh, do you want to sit, or we've been sitting? You want to sit? I'm okay standing.
No, I'm okay standing.
Yeah, we're okay standing. We've been. Thank you, though. Would you like some water? Well, first of all, I saw this sometime last spring, and it's hard to watch, and I noticed in my own sort of American way of rationalizing things, so I don't have to look at it too deeply. I'm really just like pretty much anybody else because it's painful to watch things, so you try to turn away from them. But I know when I showed the film there in Traverse City, this is in northern Michigan, if you don't know where that is.
The long version.
Yeah, the long version, right, yeah.
90 minutes.
Which is even sadder. So you saw the peppy, happy version here today. But people were trying to, afterwards, trying to say, well, maybe that's the way they, they're Bedouins, or they like to live that way, or, everybody makes do. Somebody's got to, deal with the garbage. They're recycling. You can see them recycling. This is good. On and on. Because it was just interesting to listen to the comments because of ultimately how painful it is to see a group of people whose lives are, in the condition that they're in. I'm just curious, how were you inspired to make this movie, and where'd you get the idea?
I got the idea because of being a second generation of Holocaust, and I felt all my life the helplessness of my father that was in the air. And when I was mature enough emotionally, and my political views were, mature too, I decided to bring an intimate voice of those people. For me, the garbage dump is a metaphor for the occupation, and I didn't want to, and I think that it's a very political film, but the politics is not in the front, but you can feel it in every image. And I wanted to tell their story, to give them a voice in a very intimate way. I read one day in the newspaper, the daily newspaper Haaretz, about 200 families that are in this garbage dump. So I began the research. By the way, we as Israelis are not allowed to go into this village because it's under the Palestinian Authority. We were caught a few times by the army, but we continued. We were very stubborn to tell this story.
Caught by the Israeli army, or the?
Yes, the Israeli army.
Because you weren't supposed to go into the Palestinian village.
Yeah.
Did you think at all about going into the settlement there, down the hill where the lights were? Did you go in there at all? Or?
Yes, we went there. We had a very big conflict. They were very violent to us.
Well, you're talking about garbage. People are gets very personal when you want to look in their garbage cans.
Yes, and their garbage. They were very violent, and we didn't want to, to bring this picture of the confrontation again between the Palestinians and the settlers. We have some footage about the confrontation one day that was there. We just want to bring the Palestinians, pure, just to hear the voice, just to be able to look in their faces, to go into their house, to see how they live. And you have to understand that those people are the second and third generation that they were born to the occupation. And it's a generation of very desperate, without hope.
You feel like they don't know anything else, or
They don't know anything
can't imagine
else.
anything else.
Yeah, and in this village, many of the Palestinians used to work in Israel till the wall was built. So now, because they are not allowed to go, I mean, they became very poor, and the garbage dump is one of their solutions for living.
Right. Well, I think there was also a very interesting cinematic choice that you made too, because usually a lot of times the standard documentary is, you know, he said, she said, or, you know, okay, we showed them, now let's show them, but there's a false equivalency to a lot of times that particular argument, especially in this case here, but the fact that you just gave voice, and you did it, I think, in a very poetic way. It wasn't, you know, you didn't have a big sledgehammer out, you know, beating people up. And you didn't have a narrator, and the only titles I saw were people's names. So basically, you just by turning the camera on and showing this is what life is like under this particular part of the occupation. It's like I said, it's hard to watch. How did you feel in you get this sort of sub-story going on in the movie where the ne'er-do-well son who has left his wife to get another wife, and apparently it seems that he attempted to sell land he didn't really own. It was his cousin's land to Israelis. So how was that as an Israeli? You're in a Palestinian court, and I assume they let you film in there.
By the way, it's the first time that an Israeli camera is allowed to go in a Palestinian court. I mean,
yeah, I've never seen footage of a kind of a trial in a Palestinian courtroom, or a courtroom that looked like it was a closet.
Yeah, we were very lucky to get a permission to go in, and you know.
But his crime was selling to the Jews.
That's right, and selling to the Jews' land.
Right.
It's death penalty.
You're right. But I'm just curious, as an Israeli, though, how did you feel? I mean, you're in there because there is a little bit of, you understand politically why, but there's still on a human level, there's a cringe factor when you hear that like the worst thing you could do is sell land to these people. I'm asking you. I mean, I'm just.
You know, so I think that this guy particularly is not patriotic and doesn't have any ideology, and he really did it for money. Now, his second wife is from Israel.
With the Palestinian guy who's on trial? His wife
second wife lives in Israel.
Is an Arab Israeli?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and he, you know, sneaks in, you know, and goes back and forth. But his motivation was really to make money. And this is the reason that his father is so devastated that, you know, for them to sell land to Jews, it's the most, you know, heavy crime that you can do.
What's the actual translation of the Arab word there? You put it up as on the titles as loser. You know, he feels like he's a loser, his son's a loser, he's the son of a loser. But the word loser...
He feels that if his son, you know, did what he did, so he probably didn't bring him up correctly.
Is that the actual translation of the word, though, loser?
Yes.
That's the
yes,
English?
Like, yes, he didn't give him a good education if he sells land to Jews.
Yeah, yeah.
And he feels very devastated about it.
Before we open it up to some questions here, I'm just curious, what do you know, what's your own personal feelings about the situation in general, what the solution is? Is there a solution? Are we stuck with this for the rest of our lives? It certainly feels hopeless, I think, to well-meaning, good-intentioned people who would like to see peace and justice, you know, take place for both sides, and yet it doesn't feel like that's going to happen. On the other hand, I was just saying this morning, I never thought I would, in my lifetime, like somebody like Mandela would get out of prison and, you know, become the head of South Africa, or the Berlin Wall would come down, or any of a number of things that have happened. So I am able to be surprised, but how surprised would I have to be for this thing to get fixed?
I am very desperate.
You are?
Yes, I am. And as an Israeli, I have to say that, you know, we don't see what I saw in these 3 years when I was shooting the film in the West Bank. Many of us don't know and don't want to know because it's easier. And I really, as you said, I don't see a solution in the near future. I cannot understand.
But if you were the prime minister, if you were the the queen of Israel and Palestine, how would you fix
Oh,
this?
the Queen of Israel in Palestine.
Yes.
Very exotic.
Same God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just anoints the king and the queen.
Yeah.
Right?
Listen, I mean, if they began the talks now, and in the same time they continue to build settlements, so I don't understand how we are going to a solution.
Right.
And I have to be honest.
Yeah, that's how you feel. Right?
Yes.
And finally, just what's the deal with Netanyahu? Why? He seemed really bummed out that there wasn't going to be a war with Syria. Now he's bummed out that we're not going to bomb Iran. He's like if you saw him on TV last week, the depression in his face is very serious. I'm just what's the you think he'd be like happy? It seems like people are talking, and Iran might not build any nuclear weapons. I mean, it sounds a little hopeful, right?
Yes, and and he is it's like to waste the time. I mean, to take the time with not doing anything. That's what I think.
Right.
I think it is not brave enough to make an action, to make a progress. I think that is not brave enough.
Yeah. So, are we not talking to the microphones loud enough? No. A little louder.
Okay.
I just want to see your lip.